Yes.
Good morning, folks. It is Tuesday, September 15th. We are coming to you live from the Andre Place Kitchen. I don't have any announcements this morning except to say next week we will do another food delivery in anticipation of football season. That's already started. But anyway, so without further ado, I will turn it over to Chef Tanner.
Good morning, everybody. Chef Tanner here again. This week we are going to do a chicken breast topped with tomato bruschetta. It's getting towards the very, very end of tomato season. You might have some that you want to use up, if you still have any. And this would be a good way to use them up. So, we'll jump right in. Now, to start off with, you are going to need fresh chopped garlic, some olives, capers. We'll say a tablespoon of chopped garlic, about 6-7 olives, tablespoon and a half of capers, some oregano, about a teaspoon, about a tablespoon of sugar, 2 ounces of white wine, red onion, a couple of tomatoes, and fresh basil leaves. Also some olive oil and some balsamic vinegar. And 1 raw chicken breast. So to start off with, we're going to get this chicken breast on the grill and get it cooking. Toss that on the grill over there and got it going. From this point, we are going to sweat our garlic down a little bit. Now you can put your garlic in this dish raw, but I like to sweat mine down and bring a little more flavor, a little more aromatic tones out of it. So we're going to go in with about a teaspoon of olive oil, and there's that tablespoon of garlic we talked about earlier. That's going to go into a pan, and I'm just going to put that on a medium-high heat on the stove behind me and kind of let that sweat down a little bit. You don't want to forget about it, you want to be attentive to it, but we're going to keep our eye on it while we prepare the rest of our dish. So here we have 2 nice whole tomatoes. We're going to go ahead and break these down. I like to take the cores out by cutting them in half. And you see where the stem connected here on the top, you just make kind of a little V cut here. And you pop that stem right out. If you're fortunate enough to have a tomato core, of course this is the time you would use that. But if not, this is an easy method as well. As you can see, there's minimal waste, and we have the stem cut out of there. So we have nice fresh tomatoes for our bruschetta. Keeping an eye on my garlic back here. Now it's not going to take very long to sweat, so we're just going to be mindful of that. Remember, garlic burns very easily, so we are going to make sure we don't burn it. Once it's to a point where it's a nice golden color without being burnt, as you can see, we're going to dump in our 2 ounces of white wine, and we're going to let that reduce a little bit on the stove behind us. It's not going to take very long because that pan was nice and hot from the sweating of our garlic. And as you can see, we've just about sweated all that liquid away. There's still the oil and the garlic in there, so we are going to toss this in our bowl where we are going to mix our final product up. Just want to let this cool down while we're breaking down the rest of our product, and it shouldn't take very long to cool down. You can see it's a nice big bowl and it's spread out. Should cool down relatively quickly. I'm going to go check on our chicken breast on the grill really fast. I'm going to give that a quick turn. Alright, that's coming along nicely. So we're going to continue breaking down these tomatoes. Make sure we get the cores out again so we don't have those going in our bruschetta. And we're going to slice them fairly thin, maybe a 1/8 of an inch thin. If you like your bruschetta a little chunkier, you may, slice them a little thicker. But I like mine kind of small. So I'm going to dice this tomato up nice and small. Try not to smash it. A good sharp knife will help you immensely in this situation. If your knife is dull, it'll just smash the tomato up and you'll have juice everywhere and your bruschetta won't be very appetizing. Make sure you have a good sharp knife, or use a honing steel and sharpen the knife you have. So that way you're cutting through the tomatoes and not smashing them. So as you can see, we have one half broke down, and I have little 1/8 inch cubes here. We're going to continue doing that for the rest of these tomatoes. Now with that being said, we also want to be mindful of our chicken breast back there on the grill. We don't want it to dry out. So keep an eye on that. If you aren't good at multitasking, maybe cook your chicken breast fully first and pop it in the oven on a low heat to keep it from overcooking while you prep this bruschetta. The bruschetta, the prep time on this is maybe 15 minutes if you're good with your knife. If it takes you a little longer, 20 to 25 minutes, won't take very long. There's not a lot of cooking that goes into the bruschetta. It's mostly just cutting and knife work. So we'll get these tomatoes cut up. There's one there. One more to go. We check our bowl here to see if and I'm feeling the bottom of my bowl and it feels like my garlic and white wine and olive oil has cooled down nicely. So we're gonna be able to toss our ingredients right in there shortly once we get this tomato cut up. As you can see, these are nice little bite-sized chunks. They're not a big mouthful. It'll, be a nice little bite of bruschetta. Alright, I'm going to go pull our chicken breasts off the grill back there and pop it in the oven to keep it warm while we finish this. And next, our tomatoes will go into our bowl here with our garlic that we sweat down. We'll give that a little toss and kind of get those incorporated. And next we are going to slice some olives very thin. Now if you don't like olives, obviously you can omit those from your recipe, but I think they bring a nice salty, briny component to this bruschetta dish. So for that purpose, we are going to add them today. And I only had 7 olives here. Obviously, if you like a lot of olives, you may add more. It's all about what you'd like in your taste. I'm just going to slice those nice and thin, as thin as you possibly can, into nice little rings like that. Those can go in the bowl next. And also, I like some good salty capers in mine as well. That brings some nice flavor to the dish. So I'm going to go in with about a teaspoon of the capers and the caper juice as well. That's great flavor. That's going to go in there too. Alright, we can let this kind of sit. The longer you let bruschetta sit as you make it, the better the flavors will marinate together. So usually, when I make bruschetta at home, I let the bruschetta sit for, at least an hour after I make it to kind of let everything come together. Add a little bit more capers here. We'll mix that up. All right, next we're going to break down some red onion to toss in here. And we're going to use about 1/4 of a medium, 1/4 to 1/2 of a medium-sized red onion. That's what we have here. This is going to bring some nice color to the dish. Some pops of purple. You can see we put some green in there, some lighter tones from the garlic. This is going to be a nice, colorful, fresh dish. That's why I like to use the red onion as opposed to the white. It just adds that nice pop of color there. So we have our onion here. And I like those in relatively small bites as well. I don't want to bite into a big chunk of onion while I'm eating my bruschetta. So it's a little bit bigger than a mince, but it's a little bit smaller than a small dice is where I go with that cut. And as you can see, those are pretty small. Those can go in our bowl next. And again, we will give that a mix to kind of toss all that together. Get everything marinating and working together. And now we are going to go in with our seasonings. Here we have about a teaspoon of oregano, dried oregano. And we're going to sprinkle that in there. Also, we have some white sugar. I'm going to put about a teaspoon of that in to start off with as well. And balsamic vinegar. We're going with a tablespoon of that. And now we're seasoning to taste at this point. If you like it a little more acidic, you can go in with a little more balsamic. If you like it a little sweeter, obviously you go in with a little bit more sugar. Again, it's about what you like. So we went in with about a tablespoon of balsamic, maybe a tablespoon and a half, and a teaspoon of sugar, and also some fresh cracked black pepper. I am going to toss in a pinch of that as well. And some salt. This is salt. A little bit of salt. And again, we're going to let this all kind of come together here. Let it marinate for a little while before we eat it. We can go check on our chicken breast now. Pull that out of the oven. Have a plate here ready for us. Here we have our beautifully cooked chicken breast. That's going to go down on the plate. Those nice grill marks on there. Last little peek of summer. We're using our grill for possibly one of the last times. Have to use it while the weather's nice, while we can. And then give our bruschetta a nice little toss. Make sure everything is coated nicely. Actually, if you'd like to, give it a little taste at this point and make sure your acidity and your sugar is where you'd like it. I'm going with just a little more sugar. Give that another mix. And that goes right on top of our beautifully grilled chicken breast. And look at that. There's a nice, fresh end of summer dish. Also have some basil here. We are going to grab 2 pieces of basil. We're going to roll them together. And then we are going to make very thin little slices. This is called a chiffonade cut. Very thin, they're gonna look like ribbons. And I usually do this last because basil, if it is cut and it sits out too long, it starts to wilt and get kind of nasty looking. So we're going to chiffonade that basil. You can see they're nice ribbons from the way we roll them and cut them. And we're going to sprinkle that right on top. And there is Andre Kitchen's famous chicken bruschetta. Thanks for watching.